Your mind is your first battleground. Before you fight the world, before you lift a single weight, speak a single word, or throw a single punch, you must conquer this. Because if you lose here, points to head, you'll lose everywhere. You want to become mentally strong? Not just confident, not just tough, but unbreakable. Then listen carefully, because what I'm about to share with you was never meant to be taught from books or classrooms. This is the forbidden mind training I developed through pain, solitude, and relentless discipline. It's not philosophy. It's a way of survival, a way of power. Mental strength isn't gifted. It's earned. One breath, one thought, one decision at a time. Let me show you how I became mentally unstoppable. 1, kill the voice that doubts you. Inside every person's mind, there's a voice. You don't have to look for it. It's already there. You've heard it when you hesitated before trying something new. You've heard it when you looked in the mirror and didn't feel good enough. You've heard it when you failed once and it said, "See, you were never meant for this." That voice sounds like your own, but it's not. It is the voice of every criticism you've absorbed, every fear you've picked up from the world, every moment someone doubted you and you started to believe them. And the most dangerous part is, it speaks so convincingly, so calmly, that most people never question it. They just accept it as truth. But I need you to understand something clearly and deeply. That voice inside your head is not your friend. It is not your guide. It is not your protector. It is your oldest enemy, dressed in the language of logic and concern. It whispers things like, "What if you fail?" Or, "What will people think?" But what it's really doing is planting chains in your mind, chains that keep you locked in fear, hesitation, and smallness. When I was a young man, I had that voice too, and it spoke loudly. It told me I would never be respected because of my race. It told me I would never make it in Hollywood because of my accent. It told me my philosophy, my art, my style, it was all too different, too strange. I had a choice. Believe that voice or build a new one. I chose to fight. I chose to disobey it. I didn't wait for confidence to show up. I didn't beg that voice to stop. I overpowered it through action. Every morning I trained while others slept. Not because I felt fearless, but because I refused to let fear win. Every time I was doubted by others, I trained harder not to prove them wrong, but to prove myself right. I didn't waste time arguing with my doubts. I buried them under sweat, under effort, under repetition. That is what it means to become mentally strong. You don't sit around hoping for silence. You build a louder truth inside yourself. The secret is this: the voice of doubt has no real power. Its only weapon is your attention. If you stop listening to it, if you stop giving it authority, it withers. But if you entertain it, even for a moment, it grows stronger, like a weed feeding off your energy. So the next time you hear that voice telling you, you can't, or you're not ready, don't try to debate it. Don't wait for motivation. Don't explain yourself to it. Move. Take a step. Start the workout. Launch the idea. Speak your truth. Not once, not twice, every single day. Because the more you act in spite of fear, the more silent it becomes. And eventually, your actions will speak so loudly that the doubt won't dare speak at all. Mental strength doesn't begin when you feel strong. It begins when you stop letting a scared voice control your life. Don't live as a prisoner to something that was never meant to lead you. Become your own voice, one that says, "I can." One that says, "I must." One that says, "Watch me." 2, train your mind like a blade. Your body can only take you so far. No matter how strong your muscles are, no matter how fast your strikes or how flawless your technique, if your mind is weak, you will break. That is why I always said the mind is the ultimate weapon. Not the fist, not the foot, but the focus behind them, the clarity behind them, the discipline behind them. Most people train their bodies endlessly lifting weights, practicing form, chasing perfection in what others can see. But they leave the most powerful force in their life, their own mind, untrained, untested, and vulnerable. That is like a warrior sharpening his sword every day, but never practicing how to use it in battle. It may look sharp, but it's useless without mastery. The mind must be trained like a blade, slowly, deliberately, and with great respect. Every day, you are given thousands of thoughts. Most people accept all of them. They let their minds be filled with fear, with comparison, with distraction, with noise. But I chose differently. I became the gatekeeper of my own thoughts. I asked myself, does this belief make me stronger? Does this thought serve my purpose? Does this emotion bring clarity or confusion? If the answer was no, I let it go. Just like a blade must be cleaned of rust, the mind must be cleared of lies, doubts, and useless stories. I trained my mind with discipline, just like I trained my body. When I woke up, I didn't immediately let the world in. I sat in silence. I breathed. I focused. I read not to escape, but to sharpen my thinking. I asked questions. I questioned my own beliefs. I didn't just repeat mantras, I challenged them. Because real mental strength comes from self-awareness. From knowing yourself so deeply that no criticism can shake you, no praise can blind you, and no failure can define you. And when I trained, I didn't just train to move, I trained to be present in every movement. I didn't allow my mind to wander. I didn't let it drift into distraction. I brought it back again and again until my body and mind moved as one. That is what mastery looks like. Not noise, not hype, but unity between thought and action. The truth is, your mind will either be your greatest servant or your cruelest master. If you don't train it, it will sabotage you when it matters most. It will whisper doubt when you need courage. It will panic when you need calm. It will hesitate when you need to strike. But if you discipline it, if you sit with it, test it, command it, it will become your greatest ally. It will give you stillness in chaos, precision in pressure, confidence in the unknown. So ask yourself, how much time have you spent training your body? Now ask, how much time have you spent mastering your mind? Be honest, because mental strength is not given to the lucky, it is given to the deliberate. The ones who practice presence, the ones who feed their minds with clarity, wisdom, and truth, not with noise, fear, or the opinions of the world. 3. Embrace the pain it's fuel. Let me tell you a truth most people run from. Pain is not your enemy. Pain is your teacher. It is the sharpest, most honest instructor you will ever meet. And yet, most people spend their entire lives trying to escape it. They numb it, complain about it, avoid anything that might trigger it. They think the absence of pain means they're doing well in life. But I learned early real growth, true transformation, comes from walking through the fire, not around it. Every great warrior, every master, every creator of anything meaningful was shaped not in comfort, but in discomfort. Not by ease, but by resistance. You will not find strength in what feels good. You will find it in what hurts. Pain shows up in many forms. Sometimes it comes from a broken body. Sometimes it comes from rejection. Sometimes from failure, heartbreak, loneliness, humiliation. But no matter what form it takes, pain is asking you the same question. What will you do now? That is the moment of truth, not when everything is going well, but when everything is falling apart. What will you do when the crowd disappears? What will you do when the plan fails? What will you do when your hands are bleeding and your mind is screaming to quit? I remember those moments. I remember training through torn muscles, broken bones, and public ridicule. I remember being told I would never succeed in America, that my culture, my art, my accent didn't belong. And I remember the pain of hearing it. But I also remember what I did with that pain. I turned it into fuel. I used it to focus, to drive deeper, to train longer, to dig into places inside myself that I didn't even know existed. I didn't try to hide from the pain, I honored it. Because I understood. Pain is a signal. It tells you that you are at the edge of growth. It tells you that you are touching the boundary where your old self ends and the new one begins. Most people want to be great, but they don't want to suffer. They want the strength, but not the struggle. The result, but not the sacrifice. And that's why they stay stuck. You cannot reach the highest version of yourself without passing through pain. It is not optional. It is the price. But it is a price worth paying, because what pain gives you, no comfort ever will. Pain humbles you. It clears the noise. It strips you of ego. It forces you to be present, to face yourself without filters. When everything hurts, you discover who you really are. Not who you pretend to be. Not who others expect you to be. But you're all real and tested. So, the next time pain visits, don't ask, why me? Ask instead, what is this teaching me? Is it teaching you patience, endurance, focus? Let it. Lean into it. Because if you resist it, it will chase you. But if you face it, it will shape you. Let it carve your character. Let it purify your intentions. Let it sharpen your discipline. And most of all, it reminds you that you are still alive, that you are still growing. Do not romanticize pain, but do not fear it either. Use it, transform it, make it your advantage. Most people crack under pressure, but if you embrace it, you will harden into something unshakable. You will find a deeper gear, a second wind, a level of strength others don't even know exists because they've never stayed in the fire long enough to find it. 4. Be like water but with steel inside. People love to quote me when I say, be like water. But very few truly understand what I meant. They hear those words and imagine something soft, something passive, something that flows and avoids conflict. But water is not weak. Water is one of the most powerful forces in existence. It flows, yes, but it also cuts through stone. It adapts, but it can also destroy. It yields, but only to come back stronger, more precise, more determined. When I say be like water, I am not telling you to be soft. I am telling you to be formless so you can take the form of any situation, any challenge, and still remain unstoppable. Water has no shape of its own. Pour it into a cupid, becomes the cup. Pour it into a riverbed, it becomes the river. Put it under pressure, it becomes steam. Freeze it, it becomes ice. No matter what you do to it, it adapts without losing its essence. This is what I trained my mind to do. In life, you will face changes, chaos, resistance, and failure. Most people panic when things change. They resist it, they stiffen up, they break. But the mentally strong learn to flow with the situation, not by surrendering, but by staying centered, calm, and controlled in motion. That's the secret calm. Does not mean inactive. Flow does not mean weakness. Adaptation does not mean surrender. It means strategy. But here's the other side of the lesson. You must be water. Yes, but you must also have steel inside you. Water can take any shape, but it is still relentless. It will never stop moving forward. It will never ask for permission. It will never apologize for being what it is. You must be the same. On the surface, show grace. In your energy, remain calm. In your decisions, stay precise. But within yourself, carry something unbreakable. A sense of purpose. A code of discipline. A truth so sharp, so deeply rooted, that no challenge, no rejection, no storm can shake it. When I stepped into the world of martial arts, philosophy, and cinema, I was told to change, to fit in, to behave. I didn't resist outwardly. I flowed. I listened. I moved through the system, but I never let it change my inner code. I adapted, but I did not dilute. I adjusted, but I did not abandon who I was. That's the power of water with steel. The ability to move in any direction, through any obstacle, while remaining absolutely aligned with your truth. Think about the river. On the surface, it looks gentle, quiet, but beneath the surface is force, direction, momentum. That is how your mind should be. On the outside, humble and flexible. On the inside, fierce and focused. Most people either live in extremes. They are either too rigid, breaking under pressure, or too soft, compromising everything just to be liked. But mental strength lives in the balance. Learn to be fluid in your method, but solid in your principles. Let the world change its shape around you, but you remain the steady current beneath the waves. And remember, water never stops. It doesn't get tired. It keeps flowing, keeps moving, keeps reshaping the world around it. That is what your mindset must do. When you face resistance, don't fight harder, flow smarter. When someone tries to throw you off course, don't react. Emotionally absorb the energy and redirect it. When you hit a wall, don't panic, find a crack and slip through it. That is the way of the mentally unstoppable. So don't just quote the words, live them. Be like water, not because it's poetic, but because it's powerful. Flow through challenges, adapt to pressure, carve through resistance, and let your calm surface hide a current of absolute strength underneath. That is what it means to be truly strong, not loud, not aggressive, but unshakable in motion. 5. Master the space between thought and action. There is a hidden moment inside to a space, so small most people never even notice it. It exists between the moment something happens and the moment you respond. Someone insults you. Something goes wrong. A door closes. A plan fails. The average person reacts instantly. They lash out. They panic. They explode. They run. But the warrior, the one who has trained their mind, pauses. They use that space, those few precious seconds, to choose their response. That space, my friend, is not just a pause. It is a throne. And if you learn to sit upon it, you gain mastery over your life. When I was younger, I did not fully understand this. Like most people, I was quick to react. My emotions controlled my body. My impulses spoke louder than my awareness. But with time, with reflection, and with discipline, I began to slow the world down. I began to stretch that space. I would breathe, observe, then act, not from fear, not from anger, not from impulse, but from clarity. Mental strength is not measured by how much you can endure. While screaming, it's measured by how much you can endure in silence. How long you can sit in that space without letting chaos dictate your next move. You see, the untrained mind wants to escape that moment. It wants to react immediately to protect the ego. It wants revenge, validation, control. But the trained mind, the disciplined mind, knows that true power lies in restraint, not repression, but precision. Think of a great martial artist. When faced with an attack, he doesn't react blindly. He reads it, he watches, he calculates. And then, at the exact right time, he moves effortlessly, efficiently, without wasting energy. That is not just physical mastery. That is mental mastery. And you must learn to apply that same principle outside the fight when dealing with people, with setbacks, with failure, with your own thoughts. There will be moments in your life when your emotions rise like a wave ridge. Fear, jealousy, shame. The wave will tell you to speak quickly, to act recklessly, to strike without thinking. But if you give in to that wave, you lose your footing. You fall. You become a slave to whatever moment you're in. But if you learn to pause, to breathe deeply, to say to yourself, wait, just observe, you begin to master that wave. You ride it instead of being drowned by it. Let me give you a truth. The strongest person in the room is not the one who speaks the loudest or hits the hardest hits, the one who has the most control over themselves, the one who can feel the fire rise within them and still hold their form, still speak with grace, still move with precision, still choose what to give energy to and what to walk away from in peace. That space between thought and action, that is where your freedom lives. That is where your wisdom sharpens. That is where you stop being reactive and become deliberate. Most people go their entire lives being triggered, manipulated, thrown off by little things, comments, opinions, delays, failures. Why? Because they've never learned to slow down time inside their own mind. They let the world press their buttons like a machine. But you are not a machine. You are a master in the making. So from now on, I want you to practice this. Whenever you are about to react, pause. Even for just a breath. Observe the feeling. Ask yourself, is this reaction going to make me stronger or weaker? Is this mine, or is it just a habit I've never questioned? And when you begin to do this regularly, something magical happens. You stop living on autopilot. You begin to act from conscious intent. You become the one who controls the energy in the room, not the one who's always reacting to it. This is the hidden edge of all great warriors, not their speed, not their power, but their inner stillness, their ability to move at the exact moment, not before, not after, but when it truly matters. That stillness doesn't mean hesitation, it means mastery. And that mastery comes only when you have trained your mind to sit in the space between thought and action. 6, let solitude forge you. Most people fear being alone. They run from it. They surround themselves with noise, distractions, and people who make them feel comfortable even when those people drain their energy or dilute their purpose. They keep their lives crowded, not because they love company, but because they're afraid of what they'll hear in the silence. They don't realize that solitude is not a punishment. It's not isolation. It's not emptiness. Solitude is the training ground of the mind. It is the sacred forge where mental strength is born, where the warrior is shaped not through applause, but through stillness. When I was on my path, there were long periods where I felt alone, misunderstood, disconnected from the world around me. My thoughts were different. My vision was different. And so I walked alone. But instead of fighting that loneliness, I leaned into it. I embraced the silence. I made it my companion because I knew what others feared. I knew that solitude holds the answers no crowd can give you. In the quiet, your false identities begin to fall away. In the quiet, you can hear the sound of your own soul clear, without distortion. If you cannot sit alone with your own thoughts, without reaching for a screen, a call, a noise, or another person, you are not yet free. You are dependent on stimulation. But a truly strong mind does not need noise to feel alive. A strong mind creates strength from within. It does not beg for validation. It does not seek comfort in the temporary. It sits, it breathes, it observes, and in that stillness, it evolves. Most people avoid solitude because it reveals them to themselves. It shows them their wounds, their fears, their regrets, their buried emotions. And that can be painful. But that pain is not your enemy. It is the mirror you need to grow. I looked into that mirror often. I confronted the parts of myself that were still small, still afraid, still reactive. And I did not look away. I worked through them. That is what solitude is for. It's not for hiding. It's for healing. When you strip away the noise, the distractions, the constant opinions of others, something incredible happens. You remember who you really are. You stop being a copy of the world around you. And you stop becoming an original. You begin to rebuild your thoughts from a place of truth. You begin to know your real voice, Seno. The voice of society, not the voice of your fears, but the voice that has been buried under years of noise and pretending. Solitude teaches you to rely on yourself, not out of arrogance, but out of clarity. It teaches you that everything you're chasing, peace, direction, discipline, meaning, can already be found within you. But only if you're willing to go deep enough to find it. The crowd will give you noise. The silence will give you answers. There were nights I sat alone with my thoughts and felt an emptiness so heavy. It was like standing at the edge of the universe. But I did not run. I stayed. And in that vast quiet, I found my strength. I built a mind that did not need the world to be loud for it to be certain. I built a spirit that did not rise and fall with applause. I found stillness. And in that stillness, I found power. So if you are walking alone right now, if you are in a season where the world feels distant and your phone is silent and your path feels narrow, don't curse it. Honor it. This is your sacred time. This is where you build what no one else can give you. A deep understanding of who you are, why you're here, and what you're truly capable of becoming. Solitude is not weakness. It is refinement. The diamond is formed under pressure. The sword is forged in fire. The mind is shaped in silence. 7. Die before you die. Let me give you one of the most powerful lessons I ever learned. Not in a gym, not on a movie set, not in front of a crowd, but in silence when I was alone with myself. If you truly want to be mentally unstoppable, then you must learn to die before you die. That sounds extreme, doesn't it? But listen carefully. Because I don't mean the death of your body, I mean the death of every part of you that is keeping you small. The part that clings to comfort, the part that fears rejection, the part that seeks permission to be great. That version of you must die. You see, most people never truly live because they're too busy trying to survive. They hold on to old identities, outdated beliefs, painful memories, and false expectations like armor they think will protect them. But that armor is rusted. It doesn't protect them. It traps them. They're not free. They're prisoners of their past, of who they think they're supposed to be. And so they live carefully, safely, predictably, never stepping into the unknown, never risking the pain of transformation, never daring to let go. But I realized something that changed everything for me. If you're always trying to protect the person you used to be, you'll never become the person you were meant to be. That is why death interdithis necessary. You must kill the ego that constantly compares. You must bury the excuses that shield you from effort. You must destroy the comfort that has convinced you struggle is a bad thing. You must die to the old self that was built on fear, doubt, and imitation, and be reborn from your own truth. I had to go through that death many times. I had to walk away from what made me popular. I had to challenge the traditions that raised me. I had to silence the noise that told me to follow the rules, stay in line, fit in. But I did not want to fit in. I wanted to rise above. I wanted to live fully, not halfway. That required sacrifice. That required letting go of who I was, again and again, to become who I could be. And it was painful. Growth is never painless. When you shed old layers of yourself, it stings. When you leave behind the identity that others expect you to maintain, it can feel like betrayal. But it's not betrayal, it's rebirth. You are not here to be who you were. You are here to evolve, to sharpen, to transcend. Mental strength doesn't come from adding more. It comes from removing the lies, the dead weight, the false beliefs, the need for external approval. It comes from staring into your own reflection and asking, am I living by design or by default? And if the answer is unclear, it means you have work to do. Inner work, deep work, the kind that can't be seen on the surface, the kind that changes your entire direction. When you let old versions of yourself die, something incredible happens. You stop fearing change. You stop being paralyzed by the unknown. You stop trying to hold together a life that no longer fits you. And you start creating with intention, creating from clarity, creating from freedom. That is the power of inner death. It liberates you from what no longer serves you. So I ask you now, with complete sincerity, what needs to die inside you? What belief have you been holding on to that's keeping you small? What fear have you fed so long? It has become your identity. What story are you telling yourself that no longer matches the strength you feel trying to rise within you? Let it go. Kill it. Mourn it if you must. Then stand up and begin again, not as a weaker version of who you've always been, but as a warrior reborn with purpose, fire, and clarity in your eyes. You've walked with me through 7 powerful lessons, each one a piece of the path that forged my mind into something unbreakable. But let me tell you this clearly. None of this works unless you choose to live it. Mental strength is not something you hear once and suddenly gain. It is something you build moment by moment, breath by breath, through effort, struggle, and relentless honesty with yourself. This world will test you. People will doubt you. Fear will try to grip you. Pain will come. Loneliness will knock. But in all of that, you still have one thing no one can ever take from you, your mind. And what you choose to do with it will determine whether you survive this life or master it. So I leave you with this simple but absolute. Don't just train your body. Train your mind. Discipline it. Challenge it. Lead it. Because once your mind is unshakable, everything else falls into place. And when that happens, you will no longer fear the world. The world will fear you. Now rise and become the warrior you were meant to be.